does anybody want to play as Gollum?
Greetings and welcome to the Supply Drop, episode 34, a game podcast created by three people who were tired of listening to other people's podcasts. My name is Nate. I'll be your host. I'm joined by two other co-hosts, the first being Scott. Scott,
Hello,
this is
everybody.
what I thought. This is what I thought instantly. Scott, when's the last time you were offended? Could be about anything.
It was probably 2009-ish.
Oh, okay. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah. A guy at work, I'm not tall. And a guy at work kept calling me, what did he call me? I think he called me tiny, which I'm not. I'm not small. I'm just short.
Okay.
And he kept doing that until I was like, it wasn't so much that I was offended. It was like, hey, that's not professional.
Right.
I don't really want you to call me that in front of like a customer or something. That's just
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, okay.
Scott, this was a great response, but let me ask you this. So he's like trolling you, right? He's trolling you. I feel like trolls because, I'm an ex-troll.
Yeah.
I'm looking for feedback when I'm trolling people. Were you giving him feedback? Like stop calling me that.
No, not at all. Until it just kind of rubbed me the wrong. Yeah, it just was like one day I was like, you know what? This just
wow.
Normally it does things like that just don't bother. I don't let things bother me. There's going to be people that don't like you or don't or just want to mess with you just because.
Sometimes people don't set boundaries or they don't know boundaries. I mean, I'm guilty of that sometimes too. So
yeah. And it sometimes it may not be a you thing. It may be a them thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, good answer. You saved the day there. All right, hang on. All right, our third host goes by the name of Thick.
Hello.
Thick,
Hello?
I have a unique question that I totally made up on my own, okay?
Okay.
Can you name something gaming related that you would buy full price and then something you would buy at a pawn shop?
So what I usually would buy at the pawn shop is probably like gaming cables, it's kind of simple, right? Like get a link cable, say for a Game Boy back in the day, or like a battery is okay as long as it's not super dirt cheap. You know what I mean? Like like a battery pack.
Mm-hmm.
And then something expensive I would buy is probably, I would say, like if it's like a controller, like any real controller, like like the gaming with the driving wheels,
Special
right?
editions.
Special editions.
Yeah.
I know there's more to it, but like I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. But
you of course have that Elite Series too, right?
I do, but I haven't opened it. That's the thing. I kind of I like to go through my current controllers. Like I kind of drive it to the ground a little bit, and then I'll switch it out.
Okay.
It's
so
like
you don't
break in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Well, over the next 90 minutes, we'll be covering a few topics. Let me share with you the topics we'll be covering, okay? Deceive Inc., the Resident Evil 4 demo, game disappointments, some PSVR 2 stuff, Starfield and Suicide Squad's new release dates, as well as the ABK deal. Who am I quoting when I say this? Please be excited. Who said that in the gaming industry?
Please be excited.
Didn't someone from like...
Reggie said that?
I thought it was someone from PlayStation, like I don't know who it was. Thick, you don't know this? Someone said
doesn't ring a bell.
That's a good statement, though. Please be excited.
It was someone like at E3 being like, please be excited about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting the quote wrong. Never mind.
I could see that being at E3. Like a Konami event or something.
Yeah, right.
Please be excited about these NFTs. Yeah.
Right. Before we get started, I want to remind listeners they can drop us a comment, a question, or an insult at the Supply Drop Podcast YouTube channel. Scott, tell us how your week was.
It was fine, but I've been playing Destiny 2 Light Fail and Atomic Heart. Yeah. And of course I'm still playing Destiny 2 Light Fail. I'm getting through it. It's getting a little bit better, but it's they phoned this in. I'm just gonna say it. Atomic Heart, I have stopped playing that. That game is not fun to me. It's rather annoying, and it is very pretty. It is a showcase of like Unreal 5 and a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just gonna like watch some videos to see how it kind of pans out. So so I'm kind of in that state where you've got a couple of games coming out that you were looking forward to. You've played them and they were a little more than disappointing. So those next games that you're waiting for don't seem to kind of sparkle like they did before, and you're kind of apprehensive. So I've been playing some more Solasta, a little bit of Halo, new season for Halo. I did back into Conan Exiles, which I haven't played on my new PC yet, and it looks amazing. And then Battlefield.
Is it a different account like for Conan Exile? Because like you were playing on Xbox, right? Or
I was playing on Xbox, and I was reading it. It's limiting, or it kind of limits you to some of the settings, server settings, and DLC and something or other. So I decided to get, it was I don't know, it was like $4 or something on Epic Store. So I went ahead and got it on that. And I don't know if it's maybe just the patches that have come out since then or the new DLC, but I cranked everything up to Ultra and it looks really good. That game's never really impressed me visually, but and like the draw distance and the texture detail and everything really just looks a lot better. So I've been playing with that a little bit. And then Battlefield 2042 is
it's okay, right?
Yeah, it's getting a little better too. It's kind of,
there's a new season, right?
New season dropped, a new map's okay. Got a couple of weapons that I didn't know I could purchase through the whatever the currency is, the Battlefield coins or whatever that is. So I've been playing around with that. And that's about it. I'm just kind of I'm
all you played is about 8 games this week. That's it?
Yeah, but not like for any length of time. I mean, it's not. Right? I know that now that I say all that, it's like I haven't been gaming nonstop. No, I've just kind of been dipping into them, playing a little bit here of this and a little bit of that, and not really anything sticking. So
you
guys,
limbo, right?
You guys probably get like that too, or it's like it's like that game that you want to play is not out yet,
right?
And then now you're wondering if it's even going to be good.
So what are you looking forward to? Like this month, next month?
I'm looking forward to, of course, Jedi Survivor.
When is that? When's that coming?
April 28th, I believe.
Okay. So you still have a wait.
Yeah, and I'm excited for that because I did really enjoy the first one. And then Diablo 4 has a beta next weekend.
Next weekend, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of, Diablo 4 is the one that I'm excited about, but at the same time I'm like, is it, what's it going to be? Is it going to be, another Immortal? I don't know, but hopefully the beta will kind of reinvigorate my gaming and we'll go from there. But that's about it. That's okay. That was my week.
Okay. Thick, did you play? Hopefully you played more than 8 games this week.
I don't know if I matched that.
We'll have nothing to talk about.
What is it? Because Diablo 4 is coming, I think like I'm kind of getting back into the ARPG kind of vibe. Like Wolcen, do you remember that game was kind of released like a couple years ago? Not too great reviews or anything. But some people really like the way the game felt. It's a PC ARPG that's actually coming to console this month actually. Like $30. Mostly single player from what I could tell. But I might pick that up and give it a try just to get some of my ARPG fix. I've been playing D3 as well on my Switch, and it runs pretty well.
Does it?
Yeah.
You're solo queuing that one?
Yeah, I'll only play by myself in D and Diablo so far.
Okay.
Because when I played with others, they have like way better gear. Whether it's like I don't know if they got it legitly or not. And it's just not fun.
You feel like it's just like a running simulator then, right?
Well, it's what, they call it like the Skinner box, right? Like this is like, you just kind of I don't know what that exactly means, like the actual term, but it's basically you're just kind of like going through emotions a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's like you're pulling a slot machine.
Right.
In a way,
You're
right? Yeah.
looking for that dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Which I feel like a lot of games, have that loop.
Yeah, but I'm fine with it. I think they do a pretty good job with it. But the primary thing I kind of played this week was, aside from Overwatch and aside from Rocket League, because I'm still kind of like touching through those, is RE4. I decided to revisit the original.
Okay.
And
what
platform?
I played it on PC. I was gonna play it on my Steam Deck, but I didn't get around to downloading it. I was considering buying it again on Xbox, but I decided against it. It's like just $8, but I was thinking about getting the achievements, but I feel like I would not go through the whole game to really make it worth it. Okay. Any case, only played up to the village portion of it. Like the very first opening, people really rave about this section. Like as a pilot episode, this is the kind of thing that you kind of show someone. Yeah. I really forgot how the controls for the game were kind of designed for the GameCube controller. Like how the GameCube controller has the big A button.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like the way you shoot and melee in the game, you have to hold the right trigger to pull up your gun and then press A to shoot. You use the left stick to kind of aim, right?
Okay.
And then you have to hold the other shoulder button to melee, and then you use A to melee. So it's kind of archaic, but
I feel like you get used to that in 10 minutes, though, right?
You can get used to it, yeah. The only annoying thing I found with it was like I kept wanting to move while I'm in that kind of mode, but you're not able to move because your left stick becomes an aiming button once you hold down the shoulder buttons, and then like I'm still. Like, because, it's been a while since I played it. I played it on GameCube, like the first disc. But I'm so used to like holding the analog stick around that when I start to aim, like I'm starting to aim up. Because, like I'm pushing forward because I think I'm still moving.
Right.
And then when you hold the shoulder buttons, you stay still.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
I had a hard time with this one. Like I didn't complete it fully, and I forgot like how, kind of brooding the gameplay is.
Mm-hmm.
But
what do you mean brooding? What do you mean by that?
Like like it's like this overbearing feeling, like you're like it kind of relates to controls themselves, like in the original RE games, like. Part of the battle or part of the experience came from the controls itself, like how it's kind of limiting, and like how you got to work around that limitations, and then it's all kind of survival horror in a way. So so that now after that I played the RE4 demo, the remake, right? And it's just like tonally different. There's a lot of things that kind of like little moments from that were from the original that were in this one. Like, for example, in the original, there was a dog in a bear trap, right? And you could let it go. But in the remake, the dog's just dead. Like
it's darker.
Yeah, darker. Yeah. Because like in the original game, if you release the dog comes back and saves you or something happens with the dog. Like, it's like a little, like your decision matters a little bit kind of thing. But like in this one, it was just dead. So
immersive sim.
Yeah.
Is that why they have a key? Like they have a point where you stop and look at the dog? It's like, I didn't know why it did that. Now I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys get to play the?
I did.
Okay.
I did. I have one question.
Okay.
Why the heck is the aiming so hard in that game?
Oh, yeah.
Which one?
It's hard on the demo. Yeah.
Okay.
So I played on PS5. I don't know if it's the same on PC.
I feel like,
but it is on Xbox.
Is it?
Yeah.
How would you say it's difficult? It didn't feel too difficult for me. It felt easier than the original. I'll tell you that much.
Well, yeah.
Let me explain. When I play Overwatch, I hit headshots nonstop, right? When I play this game, which is way slower than Overwatch, I'm missing all my shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's by design. Because like in the original, like when you aim, your aim is like jittery, right? Because you're kind of like
nervous.
Nervous. Yeah, like even in the original RE, at least even the RE original remake, when you start to aim, you won't get perfect shots until like a little bit later. Like you have to hold up the gun a little bit, and then you'll steady your aim.
Okay.
Yeah. So that could be what you're kind of experiencing.
I guess so. Yeah. I didn't play too much of it because I was just like, okay, you know, when I played RE4 back in the day, it had great graphics, and you know, I was like, fine.
Did you play it on PS2?
I played it on the Wii, I think. That Wii, which the aiming was pretty good on that. I remember.
Yeah, I think that one makes it a lot easier, right? Since it's just point and click.
Yeah, but I guess this chainsaw demo, I'm like, oh yeah, the graphics are good, but it's RE4. Like,
yeah.
To me, nothing super exciting. You know, I did think the visual presentation when you approach that bonfire in the village for the first time.
Yeah.
Pick up those binoculars. That's pretty cool. But
yeah, I really liked that little set piece they had for that, like how they remade it.
Yeah, that was cool.
As a remake, it looks really good. I think like there's little nods everywhere that if you're a big fan of the original, you'll probably really like this one.
Okay. All right. So you played even fewer games than Scott.
Yeah, I was hoping to play. Okay, I have the RE4 VR, but I didn't get a chance to play it. I guess that kind of speaks to the fact that, you know, in order to get VR set up, you know, I gotta have my, I come from the gym or something. I want to go home, and then I have to take a shower, and after a shower, I just don't want to put on the headset and just
why don't you bring the headset to the gym and play RE4 at the gym?
Oh yeah, and just like have like weighted
yeah.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
On the treadmill and just run.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But in any case, maybe I'll play it this week and let you guys know.
All right. Well, you also played another game that I kind of want to bring up here. Okay. I saw you. I was spying on you.
You saw that? You saw that?
I saw that.
Okay.
All right. Scott. The open beta for Deceive Inc. dropped this week, right?
Right.
Real quick, I'm gonna tell you, Scott, what it's about. Okay, there's 12 players. They're spies. They drop in a lobby. There's about 100 plus NPCs walking around, right?
Right.
You basically have to go hack 3 of 5 terminals to open up a vault. Once 3 of 5 terminals are hacked by all 12 players, then you sneak into the vault. You grab a golden briefcase, and you bring it to 3 extraction zones. Right. What is the takeaway from this game? I wanted to like it more than I did, and yet, I tell you guys.
Okay, let me ask you real quick.
Go ahead.
How far did you get in the demo? Because I didn't get that far.
You're basically talking to a top 10 player in the world right now.
Okay.
Like you guys,
and esports. Okay.
There's a celebrity on the podcast right now. It's a Deceive Inc. pro player. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, if you have any questions, I understand them now. All right. But I guess. What is my takeaway here? So
what did you find was the was there any emergent gameplay? Did you get to play any matches?
Okay, when I say I'm a pro player, and then you say, did I play? Of course I played matches. I dominated.
Okay.
I stole the briefcase, Thick. You're talking to someone who stole the briefcase. Now, did you just play the tutorial? Mostly the tutorial,
yeah. I just did not really get a good sense of the gameplay from that.
Let me tell you something. That tutorial and like that game's like hard to understand initially, but I feel like if me and you played duos, I'd be able to tell you the game in 20 seconds, like what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, this seems like I would say like I had an issue with CFDs initially. Like the first time I played it, I was like, very confused. But then the second time I played it, everything clicked.
Yeah, it kind of clicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I guess I was a little disappointed in that. Scott, you remember when we were playing Call of Duty Warzone? We're like talking. We're like, it's a cold period, and then all of a sudden we go into that little house, and boom, like a player kills both of us within half a second.
Right.
So Deceive Inc. suffers from that issue a little bit. Like you're going in, you're stealing intel, you're like, which is a currency to open up doors and open up upgrades and stuff. And then all of a sudden there's a spy behind you and he's shooting you like it's Overwatch.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's, when I think
can he talk to you?
Is he able to talk to you? They can't talk to you, so it's really not a social game at all. I was playing nothing but solos, and it sounds like solos is the true experience, which is a little disappointing because I feel like having a communication in a spy game is like an interesting idea. But you just don't get a lot of those like moments in the spy movie where it beads of sweater on your head, and you're like, I know there's a spy within my vicinity. which one of you NPCs is a spy. You don't get a ton of that. You just get like, I'm doing it. Oh, I guess I'm in a gunfight. You know what I mean?
So it's pacing. It's like there's no, it's either,
it's either cold or it's super hot.
Right.
Now, that being said, there are some moments where there's like a 5-second little psychology, like you can turn into a potted plant, and some like
I didn't even get to that part.
There's certain upgrades you need there's each character has like 20 levels. You need to get to a certain level to.
And this is levels outside of the per match, right? Like it's not like you gain it in the match, you gain it outside.
You gain it outside once your character has a certain level number, then you upgrade it, which is kind of a lame way to do it. But I will say this. So I always tell you guys, demos are like bad because generally speaking, you play them and it de-incentivizes you from buying the game.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This one, I think I'm day one on this one. So it was interesting enough for me to be like, okay, I'll continue my Deceive Inc. pro career. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I want to
go for the grand prize.
I'm going for the grand prize. Yeah, I want to steal that golden briefcase a little bit more. Okay. So and then I guess I do want to ask you guys this question. So like now with gaming media, like you can call people bad people if they buy a certain game. Like that's like a thing that we're doing.
Yeah,
now.
That's a thing now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to join that group, and I want to say, if you're not supporting this game, you're a morally bankrupt person. You're a bad person. Like you're irredeemable. If you don't support Deceive Inc. in this small, interesting game, you're a piece of trash. So my question for Thick and Scott is: are you a good, decent, moral gamer? Or are you an irredeemable piece of trash? Because the listeners want to know.
I'm going to have to dig a little deeper into myself and find out if...
Yeah, I need to think about it. Like, I don't know if my morality is worth $30.
Okay, it's only $19.99.
Oh, $19. Okay.
That's right.
That's right. I still don't know if it's worth $20.
Okay, so we're going to update on how many pieces of trash are on this podcast. We'll update the listeners in 3 weeks because it's coming out on the 21st.
Okay.
So I guess... I feel like I know how many pieces of trash are on the podcast, but maybe the listeners don't know yet. All right. Before we kick things off, I want to open up our listener feedback segment. Here is where listeners of the Supply Drop participate in the discussion by going to the Supply Drop Podcast YouTube channel, and they drop questions, comments, or hot takes, or devastating insults. Let's go over to our listener feedback correspondent, Thick, and see what he has in store for us this week. Anything this week, Thick?
Drum it in. You got nothing this week, Nate.
Okay, nothing this week. That's all right. This week's listener feedback section was brought to you by the Goodyear Blimp. You'll never know what you'll discover. Keep it Goodyear. All right. All right. And let's go to the meat of our podcast, The Drop, which is our segment where we talk about this week's most interesting news stories. And we're going to head over to Scott and have him kick this off for us this week. Scott, What was the big stories this week?
Well, one of the big stories is, and this is a short one because we've got a lot to talk about. But of course, Suicide Squad got another delay into the later half of 2023. They didn't give us a date. This is according to Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, of course. It was originally planned for release in 2022, but of course, they got pushed to 2023, and then we got a release date in December for May 26. So now it's delayed again. But it just kind of coincides just weeks after being shown at Sony's State of Play, and it was not received well because it basically looks like a looter shooter and a lot of live service, season pass stuff. So, but VGC reported on this after being on Jeff Grubb's podcast. They said the following the report, which Warner has yet to officially comment on, Giant Bomb reporter Jeff Grubb said a reliable source had told him that Rocksteady's game may not arrive until next year. So it looks like that one is going back in the oven to cook a little bit. And yeah, they haven't commented on it yet. I haven't found anything where anybody from Rocksteady has commented or Warner Brothers. So it's probably, and this is speculation, but I'm guessing it's just because of it being so ill received at the State of Play.
I have thoughts on this.
What are
your thoughts?
First of all, when I saw that presentation, I felt like it looked polished. It looked ready to go.
It did. It looked really polished. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my brain is like, what is 6 months going to do? Like you can't turn that game around into a different game in 6 months.
It's not gonna. It's fundamentally change. I really doubt it. I think they're just trying to add more content, if anything, to just make it seem like a better purchase.
Bulk it up.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be 6 months.
You think longer?
I think longer. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to see it this year. I think they're going to give a kind of a date, and then it's going to be pushed into probably early in 2024. This seems to be, I mean, after Halo Infinite, present, hey, here's our game. It's like, are you kidding me? Okay, well, all right, we'll see you in a year. We're getting this also with Starfield. Starfield now is in September. Originally, it was last November. So it's, even if it's a year, I don't think it's something to where you can kind of gut this thing as a looter shooter and turn it into something else. But I think that maybe they do want to redo some things just to not make the same mistake that Avengers did. Because Avengers when they showed it, it looked great. But then they started showing.
I actually disagree.
I disagree with you too. I never thought the Avengers looked very good.
I actually think Suicide Squad looks a lot better. But it's because I have a bias against like brawlers, like Marvel is mostly like melee, right? But
well, I actually like that's what you want out of a superhero game. I mean,
but
these guys are running around, hopping and flying in the sky with guns. That doesn't look.
To be honest, I'm fine with. I know it's not very it doesn't identify with the Suicide Squad necessarily, but I was fine with what I saw. I know it's not within the universe.
Yeah, I get that, but Avengers looked like what you would think an Avengers game would look like. It just turned out to be a horrible, games live service mistake. Yeah. And I don't think they want to do the same here. I don't really know that much about the Suicide Squad other than the last movie. I didn't see the first movie. So I don't know what's wrong with how the characters are portrayed in the game. It just looks like you're going to be jumping and shooting, the bullet spongy items to blow things up and get currency and loot and and even on this show before, we've talked about how many live services can you have, how many people that are actually playing these live services are going to invest time and money into those games for them to be sustainable. It's market research is showing that those are starting to fail, unless for the couple of big ones, Fortnite, Destiny, a couple of those. There's not enough people, there's not enough players that are going to invest in another live shooter. So I don't think they're going to convert this to something else, but I think they're going to start changing the content and maybe how it's presented. I don't know, but
this game has been in development for like 7 years, right?
Yeah.
So if you do a 6, I can't do the statistics in my head or the percentages in my head, but even a year delay is it's a small
drop in the bucket. Yeah.
It's a drop in the bucket, right?
Yeah. So what does it need? What is this game? Why, even if it was delayed 2 months, why? They're not really saying.
I have a strong take on this one. Okay.
Yeah.
Gaming narrative is gate kept by these single player gamers, right? It's just everyone on the internet just wants another single player game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you're just scooping from the bucket of negative Nancy's. I think there's a chance this game is a success, just not with the quote unquote internet crowd. Right?
Yeah, I see where you're going with this, and I agree. If you work 6 years on a game and you show it and it's not presented well, then maybe it's because nobody's playing it. You can't really tell how a game is until you play it.
These single player games, they know they're not interested in this though. These people who are I want another The Last of Us.
Right. They want another Batman game
from
Rocksteady or Superman or something else. Right.
Yeah.
Right. But the people that don't even know who these people are, right? As a studio, they just look at the Suicide game. Anybody that may be interested or anything, if the game is good and they think it's good, then show your cards, make a demo, have a beta, call
that's
it a beta.
That's most likely happening. I'm pretty sure that's
I would think so. I mean, if you think it's good enough, put it in players' hands, let people experience it. And a lot of times it's, that those things have turned around. Some games just don't look good, if you're viewing them, but they feel good playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do know with these co-op games, like this game didn't look that enticing to me, but if a lot of times these games really excel when the difficulty is just right. Like when the four teammates need to work together and communicate in order to accomplish the mission objective, then it kind of gets good. Once it's too easy or once it's too hard, I feel like these games they lose a lot of interest.
They didn't do a good job portraying that in the trailer. But
there was one scene where they're like shooting a tank and there's like two players shooting a tank, and I'm like, okay, there maybe something, and then they just like went off of that, right?
Yeah.
So
it didn't really. Yeah, it didn't show anything that was right. That seemed to capitalize on their characters' abilities.
Yeah.
And the other characters' abilities.
It was all very like single set showpieces.
Yeah, it all seemed to be just like, oh, go shoot that thing.
Right.
As one of these characters.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, again, if it's not that, and they're trying to show that, then put it out there. Have a beta, have a demo, something.
Yeah.
If anything, get feedback. I think if developers would stop making these trailers, these 4 trailers, we get a announcement trailer, we get an announcement of announcement trailer, then we get an announcement trailer, and then we get the cinematic trailer, and then we get gameplay trailer.
Right.
In between that cinematic and that gameplay, have a beta, even an open beta or anything to show that, hey, this is the game. Leave us feedback. This is what we want. We want creative feedback for what we're working on. Before you have that release date.
Yeah.
Then, if anything, it'll look like, okay, you don't like the live service thing, or you don't like the store, or you don't like the this. We're going to work on these couple of things, and then you'll hear from us again. That could be. I think that if you ask any developer that's done that, it's probably been instrumental in making somewhat of a successful game.
Right. Scott, I have a question for you.
Yep.
So you know me. I think the whole game had changed in like 2017, 2018 with Battle Royale, right? I think just totally shifted the market. Is this game like just a sign of like a game getting greenlit too early? Like this
it's been brewing for a while, right?
So.
Yeah. Well, this feels like, okay, they thought Destiny was going to be the new wave of the future, and they're like, let's go make a Destiny, but our superhero license, right? And then I feel like Destiny kind of, it did good, but it didn't do as good as, today's top games, right? So I feel like part of it is just like, wrong genre,
Well, yeah, it's got to be hard to make a game following a trend when it's not going to come out for 6 years, because you have no idea what the landscape's going to look like in gaming, 6 years from now.
Yeah.
So at some point through that, this is when games get, completely revamped or started over, or they just kind of, run with it. Destiny had the same thing. It was going to be more of a linear narrative, much like a Halo game, and then it got completely reworked halfway through into this, go here to this planet, do whatever, and basically invented that live service looter shooter genre.
Yeah.
But within that time, games were being developed. They see that all these people are playing this game. They follow that trend. 6 years later, this is kind of what you get. They had no idea that Avengers was going to come out, be poorly received, and be closing, pretty much closing shop at the end of this month. I mean, for them to watch that unfold and they're working on something that's kind of similar has got to be really nerve-wracking. But again, I throw it back to, if that's not what it is, then show us, a simple demo, just one level, one mission, anything.
Right. Yeah. Thick, are you playing this game?
I'm not going to buy it. I'll play the beta if there is one.
Okay.
And I'm kind of, I'm interested to see what happens with the game. I would have to say though, I think Rocksteady is really good with the cutscenes so far. I like at least what I've seen.
Yeah, I will say the concept of Suicide Squad is kind of interesting. It's the villains need to save the world, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Like something happened
from the good
obscure.
guys. Yeah.
Which is that you can do interesting things with that, right? Doesn't everyone have like a bomb implanted in their chest or something?
Their neck, I think, right? And
neck, is it?
That actually, I think that's one of the things you can upgrade. You can upgrade your neck bomb.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it's Escape from New York, but with a crew of mutants, I guess, or whatever.
Right.
But
all right. Well, was that was the main story from you this week, Scott?
That was it. We'll see how this unfolds, and hopefully we'll get some news, or like Vic says, a beta that we can all play and jump in and tell you how it is.
Surprise! When we first got this podcast started, I thought we were going to be playing some co-op games. We're not really playing any co-op games.
What? Where are they?
It's all Vic's fault.
Well.
There's nothing out there that it seems to excite any of us, right?
Diablo 4?
Diablo 4 might be the co-op game of the year. I don't know.
Right.
We'll play that and see, but no, you're right. There just isn't much out there as far as co-op.
Yeah. All right, Vic, what about you? What was the big news story or stories for you this week?
There's a couple. I'll leave the big one for last, but basically Nacom had a showing this week. They showed a fair amount of stuff, so I'll just kind of run through it real quick and see if any of these pique your interest. So they showed off Ravenwatch from the makers of Curse of the Dead Gods. You guys have played that game, right? I think.
Yeah.
So I think these are like kind of fairy tale characters, and they're kind of recontextualized in this world.
This is a roguelike? Is this a
roguelite? I believe, yeah.
Co-op.
Co-op, yeah.
I haven't gotten a chance to play Curse of the Dead Gods yet. I know you guys have talked about it, but yeah, I have some interest in it. Ad Infinitum, a actually a horror game from what it looks like. They showed it last year, actually, or 6 months ago, and it didn't look as good, but it looks a lot better now. No interest?
Is this the one that they said is going to be released in early access?
I don't know, actually.
I think they said that. I don't buy into a early access horror game.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you wait till that's finished.
Well,
but there's an
Sons of the Forest just came out early access.
Is it early? Yeah, but that's more of a survival co-op
and
experience.
It has the pedigree from the previous Forest. So
right.
True.
This one seems kind of. I'm not familiar with developers. Maybe they made something similar before. But yeah, it looks better than what they've shown before. So
yeah, it does look good. I'll give it that.
Next one, Clash, Artifacts of Chaos. It looks like a third-person melee, almost like a God of War perspective. I don't. You guys have heard of the other Clash games? I forget the name of the others.
Clash of Clans, yeah.
I've heard no, not quite, but it's kind of like weird cell shaded graphics. Like the character design's kind of weird. Like it's kind of really out there compared to a lot of games.
It looked like a fighting game.
Yeah, that's what they said there.
But set in a kind of a semi-open world. Setting. Yeah.
What is they actually mentioned that. Clash, Artifact of Chaos.
Clash of Chaos?
It looks interesting, but
I think it looks pretty. It looks pretty, but it's something that I probably wouldn't play.
Okay.
Right. Same here.
Thick, get to the good one. Get to
the good ones.
Yeah.
Well, okay, real quick, this one, Gangs of Sherwood. I actually liked the way this one looked. It was kind of like a 4-person co-op dungeon crawler. So I always like seeing more of those. So it kind of looks generic, but I want to give it a chance.
Okay.
Next one is Golem. It's Golem.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys have opinions on that? You guys
Scott, you start there.
Oh, it just looks terrible. It looks terrible. It's I don't know. It's like if you made a. Do you know who Salacious Crumb is?
No.
You know, in Star Wars, the little guy that sits next to Jabba the Hutt and laughs at everybody. You know, the little bird. Yeah, okay. Make a game about him and his adventures, and nobody will play it. I mean, that's kind of what I feel this is. It's like you get the Lord of the Rings franchise, and you can pretty much make any game you want, and you make it about Gollum. I know he's a major character, but does anybody want to play as Gollum? So when there's so many more opportunities there to be in that world and play these characters, and that's not one I would pick.
I totally disagree with you, Scott.
I think the studio actually was like saying that this is really more story focused because they studied the source material a lot.
Okay, so I get that.
Like in terms of gameplay, I don't really see much going on, but it seems like it's going to be emphasizing the story more than anything.
Scott, if I'm ranking my 10 most interesting Lord of the Rings characters, Gollum is high on that list.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, you know, what is it, like addiction or like, you know.
Well,
there's a complex. There's something to say about his story. I feel like a talented team could do something interesting with it.
You could.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I obviously have not played it yet, but literally or you know, movie wise, book wise. I'm trying to use bigger words than I know. Yes. I mean, interesting character. Yes. A major character in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't want to play as him in a game. I don't think I'm the only one.
Yeah. I think that's
he's
pretty
not my
much
character
like
pick.
the general consensus, right?
Yeah.
I do feel bad for the developer. They do have an extended trailer regarding like the story a little bit on their site. So whenever you guys get a chance. But you know, I think this seems more like a small passion project. So hopefully it turns out good. At least gameplay hopefully the gameplay is not bad. Like it's like redeemable, right?
Yeah. Like let's hope it's like game of the year, you know,
story
contender. Right. Yeah. I mean, I hope I'm wrong.
Okay. The next one that's big is the RoboCop one.
Yeah, Scott, you made a comment in the Discord.
I did like this one.
I did not agree with.
This looks horrible. It looks so bad.
But
it looks so bad, and I can't wait to play it.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks. Oh man, nothing about that demo looked promising. Other than didn't they get Peter Weller to actually?
I think they did.
Is any voice in it?
Yeah, see, that's. I think. What do you think about the gun feel? Like I like how the gun like shot like the original.
Yeah, like the 3 burst. Yeah. And like the guy's head explodes. Just bam. Well, yeah. I mean, it's man. If like, it's another license game, and now aren't these the guys that made the last Terminator game, the first person shooter?
Oh, I don't
Terminator
know.
Game. I believe it is Trayon or.
Yeah.
I played that, and that game is not good. It's got some qualities to it. It's got some, you know, Terminator nostalgia kind of things, you know.
So
but
is this
outside
a
of that,
studio or a C studio?
C probably. Yeah, I would say an A studio, not a double A. Maybe.
Single A, yeah.
Yeah.
Single A, okay.
Yeah, if this was a studio from, you know, like 15 years ago, it would be probably, you know, bargain bin.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott.
1999 stuff.
Hey, Scott, what's going to score higher on Metacritic, this or Golem?
Oh, wow.
Come on, put your money where your mouth is, Scott.
I'm going to say Golem.
I would say Golem. Yeah,
really?
It does look like a more polished game. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right.
But now, which one am I going to play? Probably RoboCop.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on which one comes to Game Pass.
Right. If one of them comes to Game Pass first. But
and real quick, by the way, was RoboCop a good movie? I've never seen it. Like, was it legitimately good? Like Terminator 2 was, you know, I guess.
It's very campy. You got to accept it.
It is. It's very satirical and.
Okay.
But yeah, there's also
like Starship Troopers.
Yeah, it's the same guy. It's Peter Vorhaven. I forget his name. But yeah, you should watch the documentary how they made that. Peter Weller hired a German ballerina teacher to teach him how to move like a robot for like 6 months.
Really?
And then when they put him in the suit, he could barely move at all.
You should practice with the suit on. That's the takeaway.
Well, it wasn't ready. It took him 6 months to make that suit. And, but yeah, it's a terrific movie.
Huh. So Thick, was that the highlight of the Nacon show?
Yes, highlight of Nacon. So let's keep moving forward. Let's talk about the Capcom showing. It was a little bit smaller, which is good. But there's like only a few key games they kind of showed off. They showed off the Mega Man Battle Network collection, which for me, I'm pretty interested in.
Wait. Have you played these games prior?
I played the first two. They released a bunch afterwards because they were trying to like do like the Pokemon thing, right? Where they had like two different color packs released at the same time. And it has online play, so you can play like kind of compete against others. So if you like the original games, it's a good bundle. You get like 6 games.
What type of games were they? What was the gameplay like?
So they're way different than Mega Man, right? It's an RPG. You get like a card. Mm-hmm. There's a card system kind of, but they call it chips, right? And you could collect them. Some of it's randomized. You basically are traveling around this cyber world, right? And you're like defeating viruses. You still have your Mega Buster, but in between that, you could use your chips to kind of do like these special attacks. Like, it's on a grid, like, and you're fighting.
Yeah.
Certain attacks might cover like 3 vertical or horizontal squares, and
strategy RPG. RPG.
Yeah. I think for the time, it's very unique. It's a very unique gameplay. I think there was a recent game that tried to mimic it, but it just made me want to play this more.
Oh, really?
So I'm happy that they're releasing it. I'm not happy that they're not releasing it on Xbox, at least for now.
Oh, okay.
Next showing was Street Fighter. I feel like we're pretty lukewarm on that.
I am done with that game. Stop wasting our time. Wasting our time, Capcom.
They've gotten all my players.
Yeah.
And next game, Exo Primal, the dinosaur fighting kind of co-op shooter, I guess. There's a little PvP, PvE.
Thick, let me ask you this. So I didn't see the recent trailer, but should I be interested in this? Should Nate be interested in this?
So this is going to be a live service from what I saw.
You piqued my interest.
There's a Survivor
Sounds
Pass.
Delicious.
And I know people were very triggered by that. There is an open beta next weekend, the same weekend as Diablo 4. So maybe we can give it a try.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Busy weekend next weekend.
Yeah, that's true.
What's the game where the third-person game where you have a jetpack and you basically fly around and just shoot giant bugs in a city? They made like
Earth Defense.
Earth
yeah,
Defender.
yeah. That's what it reminds me of.
I think that's the vibe they're going for, right? But as a live service.
Yeah.
But
those
also
games are all the same, but they're fun to play.
Wait a second. Isn't this game like a pretty linear game? It's like a 4-player. You push down the hallway.
No, I don't think you push down the hallway.
It's all open. Yeah, it's all out.
Pretty open
in an open world city. And
yeah, it kind of looks like
don't jump
down
my throat, Scott.
I would like to play it first before I judge it.
Okay.
And the final thing was the RE4 little showcase, and that's where they talked about the demo release. And now we already kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
Anything else to add regarding it?
I want Capcom to stop making remakes.
No, I think it's too lucrative for them, and I think they do a good job.
They do a good job. I'm full confession. I never played RE4. Even though I had a GameCube, PlayStation.
It's the best one, Scott. It's the best one.
Well, that's what everybody says. I don't know why I haven't played it. So I was kind of excited to play this demo, not experiencing it. This would be my first experience with it. And I don't like it.
Because what's the main reason?
It feels dated. It feels very dated. It's kind of like, Nate plays, Titanfall 2, and it's like, that's not a good game. In 2023, is it a good game? I think, if there's no nostalgia tied into this, is it a good game? Or, so it just wasn't. It didn't grab me. I know it's only a demo, and if it comes to Game Pass or something, I'll have the opportunity to play it and try out the whole game. But Yeah, for me, my favorite one out of all of them is Village. I thought that game was great.
Is that 7?
That's 8.
Oh, that's 8. Really?
That's the last one.
You know, Village was partly based on like the RE4, like how it originally played. Like that. That's like how they kind of shift the tone of the game.
Yeah, it's like Eastern Europe and creepy and
and more action.
Yeah, a little more action oriented. But it's just the vibe of it, the setting, and the little goofiness of it. That was missing in 7. 7, I think, it just took itself a little too seriously. And that swamp kind of Louisiana setting, it's not my favorite.
Oh yeah, I like the atmosphere to 7. I never beat it, but it was I think I like it a little bit more in Village, just because it felt like it was fresher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they're both great games. I just loved I love that Dracula's castle.
Yeah,
kind of vibe to it.
Scott, if you want something a little more lighthearted or goofy, isn't the villain in RE4 pretty funny?
Yeah,
isn't he like a wait?
Well, there's different characters.
Scott, did you play it?
In Village?
RE4.
Oh, 4. Oh, no.
You're talking about Salazar or
like that little guy.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
I think it's actually, I don't know. It feels like they changed the person to a girl this time.
Oh, really?
But I'm not sure.
There's some comedic, like he was an interesting villain because he was so like kind of ridiculous, or she, or I can't remember, but
yeah, that's what they kind of got away from a little bit, and then going back to Village, they kind of got that back because some of the villains in that, there's multiple villains. There's one that sounds exactly like Nicolas Cage. It kind of acts like him too, but probably on purpose.
All right, Thick. Did that finish your drop?
We gotta go to the big one.
What's the big one?
Starfield.
Oh, wait! You forgot one.
What?
Resident Evil Death Island.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I don't even know what that is.
What is
That's a show, right?
Is it a show?
It looks like a show. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really say what it was.
So I think they've been doing like a Netflix showing. I haven't watched any of it, so I can't really comment. But I'm pretty sure it's the show.
Is it a show? Okay, it looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like it looked like a game. No, it's CGI. Or what they showed was CGI.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. CGI. Interesting.
I'm sure we'll hear more about Resident Evil these upcoming weeks. So.
It sounds like none of us are Resident Evil super fans.
Not super fans, but I respect the series.
All right, it's the best survival or I should say horror series out there. You guys agree with that?
Maybe Silent Hill can come back.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my pick anyway.
I gotcha. All right.
Let's talk about Starfield.
Yeah, let's do.
Yeah.
So, big question: was the game delayed again, or was the release date?
Don't ask Scott because he has the wrong answer. Don't ask him.
What? Who? Well, I picked November. I was only off a couple of months. I said it was going to go. It was going to go past June, and it did. But yeah.
So you were surprised by the date then, like September?
I was surprised. Yeah, I thought it was going to be later. I thought it was going to be like October, November, maybe even December.
Okay.
Yeah, I was hoping for June, but I thought that was more wishful thinking than anything, right? But September seems like a pretty good choice, to be honest.
I'm just glad that they focused on making all versions 60 frames per second. That's great. And then apparently it's going to play as smooth as Destiny. It's just going to have great gun feel. Right?
Where would you hear this?
I made it up in my head.
Well, okay. you know that when they made Fallout 4, they did go to Bungie and they helped them kind of master the feel of the gunplay.
In Starfield?
No, in Fallout 4.
Oh, wow. Oh,
that was a big focus.
Yeah, because Fallout 3 was it wasn't quite there. So they went to the guys that, seemed to be the best in the business and said, hey, help us out with this. So that I'm sure will transpire into Starfield. But a lot of people noticed that the gameplay in the trailer was 60 frames per second.
Yeah. And, I thought there was less gameplay.
I mean, it's probably just PC.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. I didn't realize, because I was watching this on my phone initially, that while Todd Howard was talking, there was gameplay in the background until I saw it again.
Yeah.
But it seems like it revealed a lot. Like it showed off the UI, kind of like like the item screen, inventory, and what is it? Like the first half was like more like almost cinematic. I feel like that might be in game potentially.
Yeah, it looks like they kind of gave a hint at what you're going to be looking for in the game. I mean, we know there's like ancient alien technology that you're looking for.
I'm feeling Mass Effect vibes, like that whole
in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. That whole like spinning, like I don't know what to call it, but like that spinning thing.
It's gonna be you're gonna be at like that 70-hour mark and go, oh, I should probably go look for these these alien things that they talked about at the beginning of this game.
Yeah.
So
I get the feeling that's kind of like the opening. Like that's what we'll kind of see in the opening.
Right. They did the same thing with Oblivion. They used kind of the opening with Patrick Stewart as the trailer or as the announcement or whatever, and that's what we got. So yeah, it looks good. I'm still reserved. I'm trying to don't
keep overhype, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my expectations at a low.
Still, it's kind of hard to not be excited for new Bethesda franchise, basically. Yeah,
it's so rare. It's so rare that it happens.
Yeah.
And then both of you, Todd Howard is a force for good, or is Todd Howard a force for ill? Because I think
chaotic neutral.
Yeah, that's what I would definitely say that.
Okay. So it sounds like at least two of us are playing this day one.
Well, are you interested?
I feel like how Scott was describing, like if you're going through the doldrums or a desert, this game looks more interesting to me in a desert. It doesn't look interesting to me, say if a Minecraft Legend, like if it's this or Minecraft Legends, I'm gonna go with Minecraft Legends, right?
Okay.
Because it's just more up my alley. But
bold statement.
Yeah.
What if you and 99 other players were crash landed on one of the planets?
Now you keep my interest.
Right.
You guys joke about this, but
no, I get that. I mean, if there's basically two kinds of players. There's ones that love the competition, and there's ones that love the story and experiences. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't think that would interest anybody that loves that competitiveness.
Right. So we had two new release dates this week. I guess we didn't have the release date from the.
Yeah, we had a delay in a release date.
And was that a rumored delay or is it a real delay?
It's a real delay.
Oh, it's a real delay. Okay.
Wait, which one?
For Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah. And quick thing, Starfield will have a direct or a presentation on June 11th, along with Xbox.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to that's kind of like their big E3 date?
Oh,
really?
Yeah, I believe so. Because
that's cool.
Xbox will have their own. I think following it is the Starfield one.
Oh, did you guys see Robert Serrano? Do you guys know Robert Serrano? He says June 8th for the PlayStation Showcase. He's the guy that does the fake rumors that constantly get disproven. And then he just, he waits a couple months and then he's like, boom.
He does it again.
Yeah. All right, guys, I'm going to jump into my two news stories for this week, okay? Do I have your permission?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait. Okay, now go.
Okay, now. All right, the first one is, Thick was interested. This is a smorgasbord. Is it smorgasbord? Smorgasbord. Oh, PSVR 2 information, okay? So I'm gonna blaze on this list here.
Blaze on.
What's that?
Blaze on.
I'm gonna blaze on. All right. The three top downloads for PSVR 2 games in the month of February, which was its launch month, was Kayak VR, Pavlov, and Call of the Mountain. Not too juicy information there, but those are the big titles. It seems like it does sound like the killer app for the machine right now is Gran Turismo 7. I don't know if you guys are consuming a lot of media with regards to PSVR 2, but it seems like that's the one you got to show your friends when they come over, right?
Yeah,
probably the most polished and most content.
Yeah, and it does seem like you don't have to worry about a cord if you're sitting in a car. Like doing loops.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. I think you just use the controller as well, right? You don't have to use the.
I don't think you have to use the two. Yeah. Apparently there's a PSVR 2 firmware update last week that fixed some blurriness issues. I went online. It seems like half the people are like, "Oh yeah, it really fixed the blurriness issues," and then the other half are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It wasn't blurry for me. So something a little, interesting.
It's probably related to the foveated rendering, the way it kind of blurs things outside of your sight.
Okay. All right. Right. Yeah. It sounds like Gran Turismo. There are a bunch of titles benefited from it, so I guess that's good. But I guess the juiciest piece of information here is that the PSVR 2 has a good chance to outsell the original, which sold over 5 million units, says Sony. According to Grand View Research, quote, the global VR market size was valued at $21.83 billion in 2021 and is expected to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 15% over the next 6 years. So according to some firm, that's what they're saying. Here's my question, though, okay? The PlayStation Vita sold approximately 15 million units, and PlayStation never went back to making a handheld. Why? Maybe I just answered it with that little quote, but why hasn't PlayStation done the same with virtual reality Go? We have talked about this before, but it's nice to reiterate a little bit.
Well, this is also the Vita was their second going of portable.
Their first,
right?
the PSP I thought sold like 80 million units. So the Vita was their second. And
it was successful, yeah.
Right.
I think the Vita had a couple issues. It was expensive, right? I think it was
the memory card was super expensive, yeah.
That and like
$200, I think.
I think it was $300. It might have been $300.
Was it really?
Yeah, because like I think the 3DS was originally $250. Then they dropped it to $200, and that's when it started to sell.
Oh, yeah.
But the Vita was like $300. From what I recall, and I don't think it had the memory card with it. I could be wrong, but
I don't think it did. It didn't.
Yeah,
because I remember the price of the Vita at the time was like everyone was cheering, like, "Oh my gosh, it's pretty cheap." And then you add that mandatory memory card, and you're like, "Oh, it's not cheap anymore."
Yeah, it didn't come with anything.
Right. Yeah, they originally it had OLED, and then they changed to just LED to cut the cost. Yeah,
cost, right.
Yeah, I think they had a lot of issues just with that one specific. This one, I feel like for PSVR 2, I think they were able to kind of keep it at a competitive price, but everything's like, very good, like very good value for what you're getting in VR.
I just don't understand how you greenlight this thing when I think best case scenario it sells 7 million units over the next 6 years, right? Like, why is 15 million units for a handheld okay, and then like 7 is best case scenario? Why is that okay for a PSVR unit?
Yeah, I can't really say I have an answer for that right now.
Scott, give us an anser. Give us an answer, Scott.
I would say it's probably got to be margin. It's got to be what they're making on it. Maybe the Vita was too expensive for that price point, whereas the PSVR is not. Like maybe they actually make money on it, right? So if if you sell 50 million copies of it, if the margin's only a couple of cents on each one, then you're not really making a lot of money on it. So that's the only thing I can think of is that just the manufacturing was too costly.
Well, you know how like that firm said there's going to be a compound annual growth rate of 15% over the next 6 years. So do you think Sony's just like, we can either shut down our VR stuff or we can kind of slowly keep our momentum, like not invest in an insane amount while it kind of builds up over the next 10 years? Like, is there something like shutting down VR for them is like, well, once we shut it down, we can't jump back in 5 years down the road?
Yeah, I would say to an extent that might be true. But I would say like, think about tech companies, how they just buy a lot of like smaller companies, but then they just kind of end up like shelving them. They shelved them because I think it's easier for them to take the risks now than to just fall behind. So maybe Sony just doesn't want to fall behind in this sector.
Right.
Because Meta's betting big on it. There's just that whole metaverse conversation going on. Maybe there is like a grander scheme that we don't necessarily see yet.
Yeah. I don't have the news story up right now, but it does sound like another standalone VR headset was it just announced this week from some new company.
I must have missed that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but I know there's a lot happening with VR. We'll probably get a couple announcements in the upcoming months.
Yeah,
we'll probably get the Quest 3 announced, which will be pretty good for VR.
Yeah. I have one more question for Scott. Scott, if I were to, if I were to land a PSVR 2, I'd get Gran Turismo 7, I'd get Pavlov, and I'd get. They just announced Aces of Thunder, which is that World War II era flight sim.
Mm-hmm.
And my brain is like, I could have fun with those 3 games, and yet the other part of my brain is like, you're not any closer to wanting to purchase a PSVR, right? So explain to me, like, why am I going through that? And then it sounds like maybe other people are doing that too. Although, granted, we don't really know how the sales of the thing are yet, right?
Yeah, I think it's more of just, when Sony comes out with a new console, they're going to support it.
For years, yeah.
I mean, they've got to. They can't not support it. That's their bread and butter as far as gaming. So when they go into something that's like the Vita, which I loved my Vita, up until the day they said, no, we're not making anything else for it. That's a bad choice. That's a bad purchase. There's too many unknowns right now. It just launched. We've got some titles coming up. The more popular this gets and the more that they sell, the more support they should give to it. But that's not always the thing with Sony. Sony sometimes just, looks at their projections or whatever decisions they're making for, the next 5 years. They might just start winding it down. So then you've got something that's just going to sit there and collect dust. So it is, if it's $550 is, especially right now, that's a lot to spend on entertainment.
Right.
So that's not really, you're not getting enough right now for that dollar. When they have those giant, console selling titles for PSVR, that's probably when you're going to be like, this is a no-brainer. I have no problem shelling out
jumping
for this.
Oh, let me add that you can play RE Village, by the way, all in VR.
Scott's favorite Resident
really?
Evil.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. Oh, I did. I saw a video on that. There's 2 versions that you can play, and I didn't understand.
Basically, it's a standalone version if you own the game. Like, it's 2 different.
No. I mean in VR. There was like one where your gun is static in front of you and you move around, and I think that has to do with people that
motion sickness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the other one that you hold your gun like you would in VR. But yeah. Titles like that would make me want to buy a PSVR if they supported more current titles and then came out with things that are more or just horror games in general. I mean, I love horror games, so those are, I think, a good translation into VR.
Interesting. It's funny because you're like, remember earlier we were saying like, oh, it just doesn't have the games, and I'm looking at the lineup and I'm like, it has 4 titles like Resident Evil 8. I could see myself putting a headset on, kind of and having fun with that. But I'm like, well, how come 4 is not enough for me? Like, I don't even know if 6 would be enough or 8 would be enough.
Right.
Or you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's because like if I had unlimited money, I would have a VR headset that I could play Half-Life Alyx, because to me that's the killer app. That's I want VR because of that game. Sony needs to have that game that makes somebody go, okay, I'm on the fence. Where's the game that's gonna pitch me over?
Right.
And I don't think they have it yet. I mean, they may. I hope so.
Let me ask you. Let me push back on this a little bit. So, Half-Life Alyx. Let's say you have access. You're going to run through that game once or twice before you shelve it and never play it again, right?
You think so?
No one plays that game 3 times. No one on the planet Earth has played that game 3 times. Everyone shelves it after.
I think there's a lot you can do with it as far as just being in VR. You can manipulate pretty much anything you see.
Yeah, but how fun! I mean, you do that in your first playthrough. Like, you pick up the wine bottle. There's a wine bottle video.
I don't know, Nate. I don't have a VR.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I mean, that's the title. Seeing it, that's what makes me excited and want to play VR.
Yeah.
So far, Sony has not shown me anything that excites me enough to want to shell out $1,100 to get into VR. Yeah.
Right. What about you, Thick? You agree with Scott?
Yeah, I think the $500 you spend on a PSVR right now is not necessarily a good investment. We need to see more.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. This Christmas, $399 bundled with Gran Turismo 7 and
I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
You'd bite on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mentioned I'm waiting for the bundle.
That's reasonable.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's coming. It's in the pipeline.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to story number 2. Square Enix says Forspoken sales have been lackluster, and many small and mid-sized titles did not meet expectations. Dealfield Chronicles, maybe.
I think Octopath, right?
I think a lot. I think
a lot.
I've seen a list of them, and it does sound like they have released a number of titles that, kind of a lot of 7 out of 10 titles.
Mm-hmm.
President Yosuke Matsuri reiterated that they plan to release multiple blockchain games in 2023. Quote, "Our group has multiple blockchain games based on the original original
leaving,
IPs."
Right?
Say it again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that guy's leaving now.
I thought I heard that the replacement is into blockchain too, though.
Wow, who knows?
Yeah, but I actually want to get your point on this. Let me finish this quote here. Our group has multiple blockchain games based on original IPs under development, some of which we announced last year, and we are undertaking preparation that will enable us to unveil even more titles this year. We are also engaged in a global sourcing from an investment perspective and will continue to take stakes in promising businesses, whether we find them in Japan or abroad. I've tried to look up what a blockchain game is numerous times. I never understand. I never walk away from my research thinking like, okay, I understand in my brain what it is. But you guys, apparently you do, because you had negative reactions to this. So I want you to educate me and perhaps the listeners on what a blockchain game is. Let's start with Thick.
Oh, I don't know what a blockchain game is.
All right, two of us don't know. Let's go with Scott. What's a blockchain game?
Well, of course, I know what NFTs are. And NFTs are kept on a blockchain. And I think what they're referring to is that it's a game that you're going to be able to either win or purchase NFTs in that game. To be used in, whatever you want, everything. But and this is what they talked about when they first started talking about NFTs. It's like, you like that jacket, you can buy that jacket, and you can wear that jacket in any game. And every developer around the world just went, "What did he just say?" That doesn't even make any sense. So, yeah, it's. From their perspective, it looks very profitable, and it looks like, oh, this is what everybody wants. We want to be able to buy stuff for real digitally and have it on a blockchain somewhere in a game. But there's very few that even really care about that. And,
okay, you're not telling us the whole story, though, Scott. So, Scott, right now you're defending the quote-unquote the blob that is the internet, because the internet has such a negative reaction to NFTs and blockchain gaming and all the other.
What do the numbers look like? Yeah, the numbers are all the other companies are backing. Ubisoft is backing out NFTs because they put them out there. They are. GameStop. Look at GameStop's website. About 6-7 months ago, their entire website was devoted to NFTs. Now they're not even on there anymore. They just backed out completely because they make a lot of money.
Completely, but I think it's
they're still there. But what happens is they sell a bunch of it right off the bat, and then it starts to just decline immediately.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, these are NFTs, and then nobody cares anymore, and they just don't make any money off of it. Scott, Ubisoft had the same thing.
So I would say the way I look at it with the whole NFT thing is there's this big jump in hype, but now that's not that's not sustainable, right?
Hype fizzled.
Basically, they're rethinking their strategies around the ideas in an NFT, right?
Yeah, so they bought into it, so now they're trying to fit it into something anything that they can.
Yeah, I guess my question though is tell me if I'm crazy or not. What I would like to see is 10 to 20 blockchain games before I pass judgment on how fun or interesting the concept is. It just feels like we passed judgment the moment we started reading about it. And by we, I mean the internet.
I think right now whoever is making it is not going to get necessarily a fair shake. And also don't see any major companies making a really big push towards it besides, I guess, Square, but they haven't even released anything really big on it. Even whatever Ubisoft did with that one thing in Ghost Recon, it's just so tiny. There's nothing that kind of focuses on it, so I can't really say.
So do you guys think if I actually went to a game developer who was super gung ho about blockchain stuff, and I said, so is blockchain gaming just like buying a digital jacket and then you can play in other games? You really think he's gonna be like, yep, that's all-encompassing definition? Like,
I think there's more to it.
Yeah.
But like we don't really talk. I mean, in general, yeah, I agree. The general audience is probably right that right now it just doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Well, it's also if you're creating a game just around a type of digital currency, what kind of game are you making?
Well, a multiplayer game?
Well, right. But I mean, my point is that the successful games have been the game first. You make the game and then you monetize it. You know, Fortnite's a great example. They just took another game and copied it completely.
Right.
And then it did well. Then they monetized it. You know, it wasn't that they bought into a monetization and then built a game around it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Scott. I do hear what you're saying. I just don't have the distaste for it like everyone, like so many other people do. Now, I might develop a distaste after I see how they're really like, but right now I'm like I want to see it.
Yeah, I think people are really like because there's a bias against it. People are really pushing articles that kind of highlight the extremes that make it bad.
Right.
Because it's easy.
It's probably it's probably gonna be something that we don't even notice.
Yeah.
You know, that's
that's really a big thing, right?
Yeah, like it's just gonna be something in a store.
Right.
But when they start talking about the problem I have with it, I mean, you can do whatever you want to with your money. I don't care. But what the problem I have with it is that are you making a game to make it an NFT storefront, or are you making a game first? You know, if making a storefront and then making a game around it becomes so lucrative, what are our games going to look like in 5 years?
Yeah, I always just look at games like I want to know what the game is, and if it's enticing enough, then I'll jump in.
Mm-hmm.
So like right now, I'm like I don't personally care if they start with the concept and then build a game around it. I'm like, all I'm looking at is it going to be fun and entertaining for me before I jump in? Like design it however you want. You know, if you design it poorly, there's a good chance I'm not going to be interested, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just
that's it though. We don't know. I mean, that's right. It's just speculation and Square Enix is they're just weird. They're not putting any of their games on Xbox.
Right.
And I would wager that it may be because of that hard push toward NFTs, where Microsoft has stated we don't want NFTs. We're not
have they
interested
stated
in that? Yes, they have.
Oh, they have.
Said we see no how did they put it? We see no advantage to the consumer for NFTs.
Okay.
Meaning it looks like a scam.
Okay.
So that may be why they're like, okay, well then we're not going to put any games on Xbox, because if we put the games on Xbox, we can't incorporate our NFTs into it, so therefore we're not going to make as much money.
Mm-hmm.
So like the whole idea of NFTs right now just makes the way they're presenting it is like, why can't this just be an account bound thing, like just tied to my email, compared to like what a part of the blockchain is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get this item in the game. Can it just be bound to my account? That's probably transferable to the for example, the next Call of Duty, something like that. So like the way they're putting it or phrasing it, it just doesn't seem like it's needed.
Yeah, it doesn't. And looking at it at the best possible way is that, say if Ubisoft goes full in on it, and you get a hat in Assassin's Creed, but you can also wear that same hat in Far Cry, or any other Ubisoft game, right? But you see what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah.
That would a lot of the games use the same engine. That it's they are the same publisher and the same developer, so that is something that could essentially work. But that's I don't think that's what they're talking about, and that's what's bothersome.
Yeah. Are either of you interested in buying my Ghost Recon Breakpoint helmet for $300? I'll give it to you for a deal. I'll give it to you for a percentage off. You never know where the value is going to go. over time. Could become a collector's. Could become a collector's item.
That's right.
We'll talk after the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, I'll
got
wait
an
for
offer.
the horse armor. The horse armor NFT.
Right. I never bought that.
Same.
I have one more question for you guys. Is Square teetering? Are they set up? Are they set up for the next 5 to 10 years? Because it feels like all they have right now is Final Fantasy Online and maybe Final Fantasy the mainline series.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine as a company. That's all I'm going to say. Really.
You don't think acquisition target?
No, I feel if anything, Sony will probably acquire them, right? Because of how close they are.
More likely. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that they are Yosuke is being replaced in the coming month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Takashi Kiryu is taking over.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see the direction of that company. Because it does seem like a lot of those small games just did not hit over the last year or two, right?
Yeah.
Harvestella, remember Harvestella, all the farm games they were making? Or as Scott likes to call them, the kitchen games, the cooking games.
I think Triangle Strategy, Octopath. So was it Tokyo RPG Factory used to make a lot of games, but I don't feel like they made a lot of games recently. They made very small games for PS5 or PS4 and Switch.
Oh.
Yeah. Why did they sell Tomb Raider?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
I guess it didn't reach the 10 million, or was it 15 million?
Yeah, but that's a giant franchise. I mean, just not necessarily so much in money, but
yeah.
And then Embracer Group bought it, and then turned around and sold it to Amazon for 30 million more, or they made a huge profit on that.
Yeah,
but
I think when Square had all those studios, they were very diverse. And right now, I just feel like they're mostly RPGs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A genre that needs a shakeup, maybe.
More or less, yeah.
More or less. Because I tell you guys this, I'm always kind of interested in JRPGs, but I'm like, you have to hire a talented writer and you have to create a compelling story, and it feels like none of them do that. Although maybe I'm not the target demographic. Maybe they're going for teenagers. Or I don't know.
Me.
I don't know. Or yeah, I guess Thick. What was the best JRPG story in the last 10 years?
They're all very similar. That's the thing.
They're similar.
They're somewhat simplified.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the style.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I mean, to be honest, I'm biased. I like Skies of Arcadia. That's 20 years old at this point.
That Dreamcast title?
Yeah. But I also like Xenosaga. That one has existential religious undertones.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah, it feels like they used to have good stories in the games, and it feels like, the fact that Thick, our JRPG expert, can't come up with one in the last 10 years, that's telling.
Yeah.
So those
cranking them out.
Those Xeno, what were the
Xenosaga on PS2?
Those games didn't have great stories?
Oh, no, they do. That's
they do?
the one. Yeah, those are the ones that I just mentioned. With the religion tones.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The Xenoblade ones are a lot more lighthearted, but they're more simplified themes. But I think the Xenosaga ones were always very complex.
Okay.
Xenosaga, they actually wanted to do a 6-part epic, but they could not do it. They had to sum it down to 3 parts.
Was it because the first title didn't hit like they wanted it to hit?
Yeah, more or less. I think the second title, they changed the graphics to look a little bit more romanticized, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Huh. All right. Well, we will see. It's not a derogatory term. We can all agree on that.
Right.
Let's go to the rumor mill. There's only 3 rumors this week. Okay.
Okay.
Rumor number 3, and I apologize to anyone offended by how lame this rumor is, but Amazon is working on a AAA live service title, according to job listings.
Triggered.
Guys,
triggered.
Let's get all the meat off that bone. Okay, I think we did that. Let's go to rumor number 2. All right. According to Insider with the Twitter handle TezFun2, GTA 6 is going to be officially announced later this year and is targeting a 2024 release. They may have also cut, quote, portions of the game to meet their 2024 target. Okay, guys, what's your stance on Grand Theft Auto? Let's go with Scott first. Is this a big franchise for you?
No, not at all.
Mild.
No.
Mild.
Same with you.
Yeah. You know, the hype will be kind of unreal for this, but I'm pretty sure, just like GTA 5, there'll be like issues in the game. Remember GTA Online was like crap or whatever?
Oh man, when it launched, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so expect the same.
Yeah. I think they're projecting GTA 5 sales to go over 8 billion copies sold next year. So it's going to sell more than there are humans on the planet.
This was a 360 PS3 title.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was, sometimes forget about that. I mean, that's right. It's been on everything since, when did it come out? 2013, I believe. I think so. Yeah, 2013.
This is the 10th anniversary, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. I think that rumor's pretty close to being true. I would think.
You do?
Yeah.
It's about time. Remember the leak? The leak came out earlier. Yeah. Was it last year? It has the two characters. One wasn't one a Southern guy and one is like a Latino woman.
Yeah, something.
Which
like that.
That could be some interesting dynamics.
Red Dead 2 was 2018, right?
I think it was. Yeah.
So that's like 5 years. Now it's been another 5 years. So that would make sense.
Right. I remember being so pissed with Red Dead Redemption 2 because a lot of that pre-release marketing was like they were explaining how amazing the AI was. Like you could go into a bar and like certain AI could recognize you, and then you play the game and you're like, this is the same.
Yeah, none of that happened.
Yeah.
It's was it Xbox One holding us back?
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
Let's go to the saddest rumor this week, which comes from our buddy Tom Henderson. He found a job listing for The Last of Us multiplayer asking for working knowledge of PS4 and PS5 systems. Say it ain't so.
Did someone quit? Did someone get fired? I don't know.
No, that's going to be on PS4 as well.
Oh, that's what that actually makes sense. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy about that if I had a PS5.
Yeah, when I heard this rumor, I always think of Scott whenever like a game is like held back by old hardware. Like there's no big revolution coming. There's no like big jump. That pisses me off. You know.
You have to install an SSD in the PS4 for it to work.
Oh, I wouldn't mind that. Yeah.
Gives me an idea.
Yeah. All right. So the rumors were a little light this week, right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. We've had.
I think those are pretty true.
It's just a garnish to the news, to the drop.
Yes, exactly. But Scott, let's go to you for the final segment of our show, which is the big talk. You have the biggest brain this week, Scott.
Ooh, well, okay. So we agreed last week that we were going to talk about the ABK because I think it's time we talked about the ABK. The Xbox acquiring Activision and all of its properties. Now, I didn't want to go into everything that has happened up to this point because we don't really have the time for any of that. But and I think that we all watched the Michael Pachter interview with Destin Legary on YouTube.
A couple of those. How about let's see how are you guys feeling? Is it going to go through? Do you guys feel it's going to go through?
I'd say yes.
Yeah, I think I definitely think it's going to go through now.
Are we thinking next month? Or
Pachter said April, right?
Yeah, he said that he thought in the European Commission and the Competition and Market Authority, which is the CMA, both are making their decision at the end of next month. He thought the FTC will probably follow because a lot of the things that they are bringing up is not necessarily consumer friendly, which is what they're supposed to be doing. Seem to be more corporate friendly, but they'll probably follow suit with that. So yeah, I think that this is going to go through, but and I've got some, one thing he cited that I thought was interesting is that, Amazon bought MGM and the FTC was like, cool. Disney bought Fox, which was huge. And the FTC went, cool. Xbox wants to buy Activision, and they're like, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, it just doesn't. None of it. Yeah. That doesn't really make any sense. So
yeah.
He cited it as just being political, and it'll get done. So, what do you guys think about this? What do you think? First, if this goes through, which we all agree it was, what do you think is going to happen after this goes through?
Like immediately, right? Or just
like say over the next year? Yeah.
I mean, I think I mentioned like I feel like all the older Call of Duties will go on Game Pass. I think that's like a given.
I think that's a given. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you think like Diablo 4 Game Pass?
Diablo 3. I feel like we might start to see this with Game Pass. We might start to see Game Pass being like the ticket into a cheaper discount to new games. Like, I feel like Diablo 4 is a game that will kind of sell. Like,
oh, that's crazy.
That's crazy. Think it's going to be cheaper on Xbox?
No. Like if you have Game Pass, it will be marked off basically. You know how Disney did it for?
Don't they already do that?
This Disney Plus.
If it's in Game Pass, yes.
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, yes, but like I'm talking more than 20% off. I feel like the game won't be on Game Pass, but you can buy the game for a cheaper discount, like Diablo 4.
Oh, no chance, Thick.
Yeah,
no
I don't think so. Sorry,
Thick,
man.
you tried, but that is not happening.
It's a $70 game.
Yeah. Because Halo Infinite is I'm assuming is a more expensive game than Diablo 4. Maybe they're around the same, but like of course Halo Infinite's going into Game Pass, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a first party title. Yeah, day one.
I just think the PR disaster of as soon as the deal goes through, they're like, okay, except for these games, it would be a bad precedent. It'd be a bad.
Well, yeah. Also, you've got pre-order sales, that you've got on Xbox, PlayStation, PC. If you discounted right after that, that would be terrible. That would just be terrible.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, no matter what platform you're on.
Sick, don't be mad at us, okay? Don't be mad at us. He's giving us a sound treatment all of a sudden.
I feel like I'm using Diablo 4 as an example,
right?
Yeah, because it's kind of in that. We know it's not gonna just automatically go to Game Pass when it comes out.
That's pretty much
because all those deals are done. Yeah. It's gonna probably be more like the Bethesda. It's like all the deals that are on paper right now are still good. Anything past that, it's going to be a case by case or whatever they say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, Nate. What do you think is going to happen in a year, like from April to April next year?
All right. So when a couple gets married, they have something called a honeymoon period, right? Where everything is going great. That's what's going to happen with this. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to celebrate like it's the end of Star Wars. There's going to be parades in the streets, right? Mm-hmm. But I guess dancing. My concern is what happens 5 to 10 years down the road when this giant Death Star, I'm going to say it again, is built. And then they're like,
What happened with Activision and Blizzard when they first got together? Do you guys remember?
No. What happened?
It was rough at first.
They were kind of like working as separate entities, but then eventually, Activision's kind of like leading aspect started to leak into Blizzard's culture.
Yeah, you saw it kind of like, oh, this is not going to change, and then it just started to go in this decline that you could, like watching a plane, crash from a distance.
Yeah.
You think that's what's going to happen here, or?
Well, I think Microsoft's set up a little bit better.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll get the same sort of outcome that they have, but I'm pretty sure Microsoft will slowly start to like kind of ooze their culture in, which I don't think is a bad thing in this, at least at this point.
I mean the employees want it. The employees were celebrating when they got this news. They want to be under Microsoft's umbrella because Microsoft apparently is a better place to work than Activision.
Yeah.
But
give us some of that culture. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they've even said it's like you want to, if you want to have a God, the word just flew out of my head.
Didgeridoo.
No. Yeah. A musical instrument from Australia. No. If you want to have a a work, what are they trying to do with the work and then put everybody together? What's the word for that? Thank you.
Union.
Yeah.
I can't believe I can think of that. If you want a union, have a union.
Mm-hmm.
We're totally, whatever you want to do, we want to do it. They want to make it better for the employees because they know that to make Call of Duty is very difficult. To make Diablo is very difficult. You want top talent there. You don't want all the people leaving. So that in itself is a good thing. But as far as like in a year, yeah, I think it's going to look a lot like Bethesda. I think it's going to be that the titles that are going to come out this year are pretty much just going to come out under, Activision Blizzard like they normally would. Yeah, get delayed like they always do. But then after that, they're going to just be incorporated into Game Pass. I also would like to see a separate team maybe work on World of Warcraft for console and put that on, Xbox or the cloud or something, something that a lot of people have wanted for years is to play that on a console,
Yeah, I feel like it's prime for it because it has controller support now.
It does. Yeah. So there's no reason not to do it. And then maybe waiting. It's like, well, if we just wait long enough, Microsoft will just do it. So, so I think that in the first year, I think it's going to look good. But yeah, like Nate, I don't know what that next 5 years is going to look like. Because, I said this before on the show that after seeing how they handled Halo, or a studio that makes Halo, $1 billion franchise, by the way. How are they going to handle, Blizzard or Activision themselves or the studios that are involved? There's a lot of studios involved with just Call of Duty. You can name like 5 off the top of your head that worked on any given Call of Duty. How are they going to manage those? Who's going to be put in place of that? And what is it, going to look like, in the future? How are they going to manage all of it? Is my big question. It just seems like they could be a little bit too big, not necessarily as harmful to consumers in that competitiveness, but more like what is the quality of your work that's going to come out of it in the next 5 years because of that size.
I do feel like there's a lot of talk on the internet. If you listen to podcasts, gaming podcasts, there's some crazy people. I'm going to call them crazy people who are like, look what they did to Halo. They're just going to ruin everything. They're just going to do the Halo stuff to them. Like it's just going to turn every big title into, which I just think is nuts, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's not like they intended to do that.
Right. And I'm like, all those companies they're all those studios are functioning like fine right now. I'm sure they're all happy to get extra funding from Microsoft, extra time from Microsoft. Like I don't think it's like driving a car and like you're knocking on the driver out and throwing him in the backseat and then you're driving, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of that talk is nonsense.
Yeah, I did too. I think immediately, like in this next year, I think it's gonna look good, and I think it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of concerns me.
Yeah.
In the long run. Okay.
Right.
Now.
Can I say a couple of things?
Yeah.
You're not moving on now, are you?
Oh no. Well, no. Go ahead.
Well, all right. So right now, right before the podcast, I Googled how many studios Microsoft currently has. They have 23. They have 23 studios. PlayStation has 15 right now, right? Guess how many Activision Blizzard currently has?
12, 13, I think.
They have 15. Yeah, now, a couple of them are support studios. They're not big, but I'm like...
Right.
Shout out to Beanox.
Yeah. Once this deal goes through and people are like, oh, the major players in the field, like it's not major players anymore. It's major player, right?
Yeah.
This is just like this dwarfs any other studio or not studio publisher.
No, I think Tencent and what's the other big one? Starts with an E.
Epic?
No. Embracer. Yeah. They have more studios, even with the acquisition.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, Scott, name me 2 of the biggest Embracer titles off the top of your head. Quickly.
Titles?
Yeah.
They own anything Lord of the Rings right now.
Embracer does. All right, so like
everything.
there's not a ton of hot Lord of the Rings games. There's not a ton of hot Lord of the Rings games out right now, right?
Yeah, they don't own a Call of Duty if that's what you're getting at. No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah. So I'm like, it's a little different. And then Tencent, I guess Tencent owns League of Legends. They own some big.
They have a lot of stakes in a lot of companies.
Like a lot of minority stakes, right?
Yeah. Bungie.
For one. And Epic as well.
And Epic.
That's right.
Yeah. They took that money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I see what you're saying. It's and I'm worried about that too. And not so much as like Microsoft is evil, they're out to get the consumer, but more just about a management situation.
Yeah.
It's a lot to handle.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask both of you, do I have permission to put a little tinfoil hat on my head and give you my final point here?
Who are you talking to?
All right. Well, here we go. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
So thank you, Zach. According to Wikipedia, Occupy Wall Street was a 59-day left-wing populist movement against economic inequality and the influence of money in politics that took place in Zuccotti Park, New York City. Mm-hmm. That happened in 2011, okay?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at what happened to these giant companies over the last 10 years, like what their net worth is today compared to 2011, like it's insane how much they've grown, right? So, and apparently, now I know this isn't an amazing reflection of it's not a perfect reflection, but apparently Microsoft's market cap in 2011 was $220 billion, which apparently was too much, right, for certain people, right?
Right.
Now their market cap today is $1.8 trillion, right?
Yeah, they're in the trillions.
They're in the trillions, right? I know they were $2.2 trillion at one point.
Yeah.
So I guess to me, it's just interesting how these giant companies can get the public to focus on certain things while stuff is happening that no one seems to care about, right? Be considered and so I guess that's my American culture is focused on like there are what I think is insane stuff that it's like it's to me it's very clear. It's like look over here, don't look over here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I won't get too more tinfoil hatty other than that. I just think that's something that, like, you listen to Xbox 2 podcast with Jez Corden and the Rand guy, and he's like, well, it's just like they're like mad at big tech. Like, that's all I'll say. And I'm like, well, maybe it's a valid concern.
It's a valid concern.
Yeah. And I'm like, maybe monopolies and what are the oligarchies? Maybe they have a negative influence on a population. So I just feel like this whole merger is like we're headed in a direction pretty quick, right? So I don't know. I mean that's tinfoil hatty and
I mean it's there's room for concern definitely.
Yeah.
And there's a lot happening with just like mergers everywhere right now.
Right. I feel like the 10 biggest companies today compared to what the 10 biggest companies were 20 years ago is just like astounding how much different that today's companies hold.
Just wait for the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
no, go ahead, Dick.
I feel like there hasn't been like this big of a shakeup in the gaming industry since like Midway and everyone left.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't. I mean, it wasn't even this close to this big.
No.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is huge.
The last
huge.
The last biggest thing was when they announce the Sega Saturn at E3, and then they're like, it's available tomorrow. That was probably the only thing that's comparable to the $70 billion acquisition.
Well, the one thing I wanted to ask is, on the flip side, what if for some reason this doesn't go through? What do you think it's going to look like for Activision, for Microsoft, or even for Sony?
No, I think a lot of people are saying that Activision would not want to work with Sony again, but I just don't see that happening because they make too much money.
All these people running these companies, they're not fanboys. They're not like message board warriors. They're like money people, right?
Yeah.
Well, but the people in charge of these major corporations are babies. They're spoiled children. And it's not like, oh, well, you said this, so you're not getting Call of Duty on PlayStation. No, but what it will be is that, oh, our contract ends on 2024 with your exclusivity stuff for Call of Duty. We're not renewing that. That's going to Microsoft. You're still getting Call of Duty, but you're not getting anything extra for your gamers. Have a nice day. That they will do stuff like that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because it's like, we're going to take your money. you're still getting what you want, but you're not getting anything extra.
Right.
Because, you said something that I didn't like, and, your dog crapped in my yard or something like that, So that's what's going to happen. And Sony's going to, act like a big baby and, retaliate in some way. And, it's just really embarrassing to watch stuff like that, but that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what do you think, Nate? What do you think it's if this doesn't go through for whatever reason, what is it going to look like for all three parties?
So I think you and Thick are together on this one. I'm a man on an island. I think if it doesn't go through and there's a new contract being like, who wants to sign an exclusive marketing deal with Call of Duty? I don't think any of those people are like, well, Sony did something bad to me, so I'm not gonna take the largest offer. They're gonna take the largest offer, right? The more lucrative. I just don't see them like holding a grudge at the expense of income, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's it, really.
I guess some people also ask whether Xbox will be fine without the Activision acquisition.
They have 23 studios. A lot of them are great studios.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Like I said, I think if this deal doesn't go through in 10 years, Microsoft's going to be outpacing PlayStation in terms of market share, unless there's some like shift in the industry, right?
Yeah.
Because I just think 23 is a huge advantage over 15, right?
Yeah. One thing that I hope one reason why I hope this goes through is just basically for Activision Blizzard. There's some industry insiders that say they don't really have a backup plan. If this doesn't go through, they just go back to normal. But normal was not. They had trouble with normal. So it's going to be more like hey, we're sticking a for sale sign out in the yard and we'll see who comes up and gives us an offer. That's what scares me. That scares me way more than anything I can come up with in my head of Microsoft owning Activision Blizzard, because the FTC will most likely not let Tencent make an offer on Activision. But Embracer Group, maybe. But what about Google? What about Amazon? What about companies that actually could spend the money for this? What about AT&T? What about Comcast? What about the entire country of Saudi Arabia?
Berkshire Hathaway, yeah.
Right, exactly. What about these companies that do not do gaming, have no idea what they're doing with gaming, and just go, hey, we want to buy Call of Duty?
Yeah.
The FTC would absolutely allow that, because it's allowing competition, not,
I got to be honest with you,
going against it, and that's going to be terrible.
Yeah. If the military industrial complex purchased Activision and they started putting their F-22 Raptors with like Call of Duty wraps, that's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, well, I'll give you that. They did make a game, America's Army, and it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad.
So,
no. Yeah.
But yeah, that landscape I don't want to see.
Yeah.
So, and if they're bought, Bobby Kotick is most likely out. He's going to take a check and he's going to walk.
Yeah.
And I think employees are more happy about that than anything else. So
right.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it.
Scott, I think you did a bang up job. Above my screen are my two hands clapping each other because you did such a good job. Now, if you notice Thick's hands, he's okay. He goes.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I will say something too, and I'm putting this on the podcast because I have these my premonitions. Michael Pachter said something that I said in a previous podcast about after the Series X and the PS5. Sony, he said Sony will probably continue to make consoles, but Microsoft won't. So if Microsoft's looking at the 20-year plan, Sony's looking at the next console and the next console and the next console, and then that's how Dad did it, right? That's not how we do it. So that he said he feared that will probably hurt Sony more in the long run. So hopefully they will change and start looking at how they can grow and not just keep making.
Yeah.
There's my hot take for the week.
So yeah, it's funny at the end of this podcast, I was supposed to have a vote on kicking Thick off the podcast because he put in the Discord a Destin Legary interviews Michael Pachter, two people who are like,
your favorite.
They're the opposite of my favorite because like
I'm not a fan of Destin Legary.
Destin, you got to give credit to him. He does like pump out content and he's like professional, but he's just hardcore. Like it's just like propaganda for the Team Green, right?
Yeah.
And then you listen to that podcast. Like I haven't done this, but you could Google a list of things Pachter has gotten wrong over the last 20 years. The list is insane, right?
Yeah, but mine is like tiny.
Right. Well, right. But it's just just watching those two people interact, and it's funny because Pachter does come across pretty professional and like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. And then I'm like, well, what if I just Google the list of like I don't know how much.
Yeah, this guy
he has a lot of hot takes.
Yeah, he's paid to predict things financially and what companies are doing.
Right.
But I don't know. I just feel a little vindicated to hear somebody else say the same thing that consoles in the future are just not going to be a thing. You're going to most likely have something built into your TV,
right?
Or you're going to be using your computer for pretty much everything on the cloud, whatever.
Right.
And Microsoft is investing in that. And I just don't see Sony doing that. I don't see them investing in something that's, if their console is not there, what is there?
So, Thick, do you agree with that?
Enough. I have a percentage agreement with that, like about 50-50.
To me, it seems very obvious that like Sony is gearing up. Like they know games are the platform. Clearly, Jim Ryan knows like there's an end to the hardware. That's what I think. Like he seems very like.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's surprising to me that Pachter, like his track record, he would say like, oh, they're just going to keep making hardware until their wheels run off. And I'm like, well, they're investing everything in a live service right now, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't really agree with that. I think that's kind of crazy to say.
I think the ultimate goal is ubiquity. Like you want 300 and you want like everyone in the world to be playing games, basically.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess I want to show you guys a new background because this is my favorite background right here.
Oh, nice.
What language is that? Oh,
can you read it? Can you read it?
It's backwards.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
Oh, it is backwards on my
projected gaming
category growth.
It's
that's really hard to read.
Okay, I got it.
It's also upside down.
It just shows their increased investment in live service over the next number of years, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's they're
I think that's a good.
They make money. It's not they're not going away by any chance. I just hope that they have that planned for, there's not going to be a PlayStation 8.
Right.
It's got to be something else.
Well, you know how my tinfoil hat thing is like, well, it just feels like, in 10 years, the 10 biggest companies are going to be controlling like a crazy amount of the wealth. And I feel like games are kind of headed in that direction. I feel like in 10 years, you're just going to have your 5 big games as service titles. And like no one's going to care about hardware sales at that point. Because those things are just going to generate so much revenue, right?
Well, I think it doesn't really matter as long as it'll run on your phone.
Right, or your TV, or your,
that's where the money's made anyway, is mobile. So
right. Yeah, and it does sound like it does sound like both Microsoft and PlayStation, they're doing a lot of like mobile and console and PC. They're working on those types of games, right? Which is smart.
Yeah.
And then last thing, because I got to diss Michael Pachter again. He did say like it sounds like he's saying like anyone who criticizes him online is like a troll. He said that in his interview.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well
it's like whatever, man.
Then he went on to try to say like, oh, my like consoles are ending comment, and then it sounds like he's just like, oh, I never really said that. I said something else, right?
Yeah, he said that.
He's like, I didn't say consoles are ending.
2011.
I said like, right.
Yeah, he probably did.
Yeah, I feel like there are types of people out there that you could just say like, my bad, I got that one wrong, and he was just like, no, the trolls are attacking me, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's all those trolls. Now listen to my next take, but I feel like I'm getting off track here.
You're just attacking Michael Pachter.
Yeah, it's just
you're not a fan.
I got an onslaught in that Discord today. I'm telling you.
No, we should just take the information from this and and this is just one individual. I don't suggest, I never suggest like, oh, this whatever this guy says is right on the money. There's nobody like that. Yeah.
No.
But it was a good interview. He did have, a lot of insight into, the CMA and the FTC and stuff that we as just, gamers don't really have. So I was doing a lot of this information. He kind of summed up some things that were easy to digest as opposed to reading something from like Gaming Biz,
right,
or gamingindustry.biz, and it's like,
well, Scott,
I need to take a Tylenol.
You mentioned the Hogue Log video, and I watched that for 10 minutes, and it was thick.
He got really deep. Yeah, he got really into the legal, and I had to drop out as well because it got.
And early on in the video, he's like, I want to read to you what is actually said. I don't want to just give you my thoughts on it. I'm like, oh, no, please just tell us your thoughts on it.
Right. Just sum it up, please.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, he had a lot of information too, but I couldn't follow a lot of it because it's not our day-to-day thing. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I'm pretty sure Dick's not a lawyer. You're not a lawyer. So, it's hard to get that information in these bite-sized things. And when we do, sometimes it's through our normal, media channels that are having their own spin on it, or they've got it wrong, or, it's just flat out rumor. So I do think that a lot of the information that we get from this ABK deal is dated. I think that when we hear something, somebody said this, or they're changing this, or this is approved, or this isn't. I think it was that information is like 3 weeks old. So as we get it, this thing is further along than we know because everything that's seeping out of it is, there's nobody at the courthouse with a camera and a microphone going, what did they talk about today?
Right.
Yeah. So this thing we could wake up tomorrow and it goes, hey, it's over. Everybody made a decision.
When we woke up and just heard the initial news, it was back in January, like 21,
last year,
right?
Yeah.
Or 22, yeah.
22, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we did. It was like, what is this?
Yeah,
is this a joke? So, crazy stuff. I'll be glad when it's over just so that we can get on with our lives.
Yeah, same.
Right. Let me ask you guys this question. So a lot of the talk is centered around Call of Duty, right? Like it's all like they got to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, and that's like what is the card? What's the phrase? Like that's the golden goose or whatnot.
That's the goose that laid the golden egg. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I guess for the next 5 or so years, but do you guys think there's a title coming in the next 10 years potentially that's going to be, 1.5 to 2x bigger than Call of Duty? Like, do you feel like we're growing it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Call of Duty cannot be sustainable for forever.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like it can, but it
right.
It just historically it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It's growing with Warzone and Warzone 2, and I don't know.
I guess what my thing is, like, I'm so interested in what that survival game from Blizzard looks like. I feel like that's like a potential quad A title. That it's hard to say that when we know nothing about it, but
right. It's we'll see what Diablo 4 does. For me, the old Blizzard's gone. It's just not there anymore. If they can kind of redeem themselves with Diablo 4 and it's a good game and it's not, over monetized and just grindy and then I would have more hope for whatever else they're going to be working on in the future. But I kind of have to see what it looks like. I don't know.
Not me. I can assign a Metascore to that game already if you guys are interested, or maybe for Patreon.
You give us the prediction.
No, it's not a prediction. It's a Metascore. This is take it to the bank. It's a 94. It got a 94, which is unheard of for a multiplayer game. So
91.
Okay.
91.
Yeah.
All right, guys. It sounds like the podcast just ended. So now Scott has a job, and then Thick, you're gonna have a job right after that. Scott, tell listeners how they can reach us.
They can reach us at the Supply Drop Podcast at gmail.com, and they can follow us on Twitter at the Supply Drop Podcast. Sorry, the Supply Drop Podcast at pod drops.
Too
many ads.
Okay.
Yeah, I have
All
to
right.
be careful with that.
Okay. And then let's head over to thick. Any ancient wisdoms that we can meditate on over the next 7 days.
Okay. A hero.
Wait. Before you say this, I want you to say it with some confidence.
With some
all right?
gusto. Okay.
Just a little bit. Put a little 10% extra.
Okay. A hero need not speak. When he is gone, the world will speak for him.
Ooh. Nice.
You can't see my hands, but they're clapping.
No, I see where your hands are going. So.
Okay.
All right.
I like that. All right, that's going to do it for this week's podcast, guys. Join us next Monday, 7 days from now. Adios, listeners.
All right.
Bye.